A very warm welcome from my side again. Good morning. Good morning to Beledweyne, Governor. Good morning also to Madrid, to Professor Pereira and the students. And good morning also to all colleagues present here in the meeting. I think in the interest of time, we start, and we hope that also the distinguished guests who have faced some technical difficulties can join us in due course of the time, because we have only a limit of 90 minutes for this very interesting and very comprehensive topic of flood resilience and urban resilience for the city of Beledweyne. I'm Program Management Officer for UN Habitat, and I'm heading the MIDNIMO project, which is very active in Hirschebelle State for quite some time. We are also preparing some activities in Beledweyne very soon with the construction of water kiosks. But our topic is more today on what can be done to really address the emerging issues in Beledweyne. But I want to, you have the agenda seen already. I want to give the floor before we give time to the students. Can you mute your microphone, please? So, but before we give the floor to the students and Professor Pereira and his team, I would like to hand over to Ishaku Maitumbi, who is the officer in charge for UN Habitat Somalia program. A very warm welcome and good morning.
Thank you, Safos. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
I can hear you, and I hope the others can hear you too.
Yeah, a warm welcome to everyone, colleagues, the governor, the minister, if they can hear you, my fellow colleagues from the UN, Beledweyne, local authorities, and of course the students from Madrid. Habitat, together with you, all the partners of our friends of Habitat, we want to celebrate the World Habitat Day, which happens every year on the 5th of October. And of course, then it's extended the whole month as the Habitat month in terms of our mandate of housing for all, which this year the theme is housing for all and a better future, which is one of the parts of our mandate. Habitat in Somalia has close links on land, water, and basic services. We also know that Beledweyne has suffered over the years of floods and has affected people's lives and the quality of life. And the governments have been trying, and other partners have been trying to alleviate this challenge. But we know that given the climate change context we have, this would happen even more as we go, and this will also create more environmental degradation within the region. So at the same time, we have this fast rate of urbanization in Beledweyne, which is then compounding these two programs as flooding, and then there's the urbanization coming, and the demands for service delivery becomes very more important. So it's important for us collectively to see how we can work collectively with governments, with partners, with donors, to see how we can try as much as possible to empower the local authorities to be able to manage this challenge that they're faced with them. And Habitat will continue to be a partner for Beledweyne and in the challenges you're facing, and we intend to work constantly and closely with you. And of course, Habitat and the students, this is just one of our partnership with Madrid, the Institute in Madrid, to see how we can leverage some of the knowledge, experience that they may have somewhere to kind of build this partnership and support the people of Beledweyne and Somalia at large. So on that note, I wish us a very fruitful proceedings as we go, and we continue to have these celebrations. And I thank all of you for joining us to celebrate our World Habitat Day. Thank you all. Over to you, Sophos.
Thank you very much, Ishaku. Let's celebrate. But before we celebrate, also let's have the inputs. And I'm very happy. Basic in Spain, and he has also brought into this meeting today some of the students. I'm also very glad that we have for the first time as Somalia program such kind of interaction also. But I want to give you the floor and maybe and then you the results of the working paper, which has been also published on Habitat's website for all who want to study this more in detail after the presentation, but also on Relief website. Thank you. Mr. Professor Perea, can you hear me? There.
Okay. Sorry. I didn't understand. Okay, thank you so much, Sophos. Good morning, everyone. Okay, first of all, well, I will be very brief. First of all, I would like to thank all the Somali authorities for supporting this session. It is so important as very little can be done without the involvement of public authorities in all levels. Thanks to UN Habitat Somalia, and special thanks to Pablo Fernandez for his constant efforts and networking, moving forward in improving the habitability conditions for the most vulnerable people. Thanks for inviting me to this session. It is an honor to be here on behalf of the Institute of Cooperation for Basic Habitability, ICHAP. The Institute has been training professionals in the habitability sector for more than 25 years, focusing on low-income contexts, especially in Africa and Latin America. I would like to send a special greeting to Julian Salas and Belén Gesto, directors of the Institute, and also to Felipe Colavidas, he's around, for their incredible dedication and work over decades in fighting with all the challenges that are affecting the poor in developing regions. Well, the Institute has been linking academia with real projects through a strong network of institutions and professionals, growing year by year with the key role of the ones who were trained by the Institute, as the case of Pablo here. Many experiences have been developed. I want to briefly mention the one in Makeni, Sierra Leone, where I have personally been working for more than 10 years from CEU San Pablo University in Spain, connected with the University of Makeni and the Makeni City Council. Again, academia, local authorities, traditional leaders, civil society, working together with the support of the Institute for Basic Habitability, in this case with Adela Salas and Natalia Garcia. Well, I would like to highlight this approach and the huge potential for the future, as we will see clearly in the work that will be presented right now by the ICHAP students, with the coordination of Pablo Fernandez from UN Habitat. So connecting cities, towns, or villages with universities will provide a key network to work with a long-term vision involving local authorities, society, and international institutions. So, land issues, affordable housing, flooding, food security, health, are some of the constant challenges affecting vulnerable communities in sub-Saharan Africa that are also present in Somalia and beledweyne. About the work in beledweyne by the ICHAP students, I just want to remark some aspects that we will see later with the presentation. The importance of having a summary information combining spatial and technical analysis, irrigation, urban expansion, densities, flooding, facilities, neighborhoods, informal areas, internal displacement people, key information between analysis and diagnosis, so useful for the decision making. identify the risk levels by neighborhood according to this previous analysis, anticipating an urban resilience plan with proposed actions at different scales. So, well, what we have here is an excellent basis to move forward in all levels, to open broader discussion, to involve civil society, traditional leaders, local institutions. Finally, it is a high-level starting point to keep fighting against all mentioned challenges. I strongly encourage all stakeholders in beledweyne to follow the document, to keep working through that focal guide and with all other reports of key documents of the city. Well, and to conclude, all processes affecting cities in sub-Saharan Africa are so complex. We cannot simplify, and we must work hard with all stakeholders in long-term projects. According to theory and personal experience, I would like to share 6 key elements for working in cities with informal dynamics in developing countries. 1. Participatory and strategic approach, urban planning as a process. We must support participatory processes involving key stakeholders moving forward little by little with proposals that can be adapted to each context. Instead of conventional land classification for the whole city, we can identify critical actions. 2. Defining the vulnerable and valued lands. As the case in beledweyne, defining lands to be preserved from urbanization is key. 3. Anticipating a comprehensive framework for the decision-making, 10, 20 years. It is also done in the work to be presented in beledweyne with the urban resilience plan. Must be understood as a first step and can be adjusted, changed according to further discussion. 4. Reserving land for a structural network and at the same time implementing short-term actions. So, for schools, health centers, facilities, main roads, urban expansions, we have to define the right lands available in a medium-long term. Reserving land is cheap, and at the same time we can start implementing projects in a short term. It has been also done in the proposal for beledweyne. 5. I'm finishing. An innovative and progressive planning management. When we don't have a clear legal framework in housing and urban planning, when we have both systems, formal and customary, we have to move forward with hybrid solutions. We have to agree simple rules and regulations among stakeholders, reserving at least 50% of land for public spaces in new developments, taking care about urban design and connecting the actions with financial plan. And 6, indicators for sustainable development and monitoring. In the framework of the 2030 agenda, we have to include key indicators. On one hand, to understand where we are, and on the other hand, to evaluate the progress on time. So, well, I'm sure we will enjoy the work on flood risk mapping and urban resilience in beledweyne by students of the Institute of Cooperation for Basic Habitability, the CHAP. Congratulations for the good job. So thank you.
Thank you, Professor Perea and your team, and thank you also for this forward-guiding structured approach, what needs to be done or what should be done. I have, before we start with the presentation, also the great pleasure to welcome His Excellency, the Minister of Interior of Hirscher State, Mr. Mohammed Adler, also to our meeting. A very warm welcome to you, Minister. We have started already, but we give you the floor a little bit later after the presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister is here, and on behalf of Minister Al, he has received, and thanks you very much.
Thank you. So we can proceed with the presentation now.
Can everyone see the presentation?
I can see, but let's get also reflections from other participants.
Okay. Okay, thank you. I'm seeing from the charts that people can see.
I hope you can see it all so that we can start now. Thank you.
Good morning. Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. So, everyone, I'm Beatriz Sierra, and I'm gonna be representing my working team for this research. So, as Luis just presented, the research we are presenting is the result of the joint work between students from ICHAP and colleagues from the UN Habitat Somalia. The working paper aims to establish the spatial basis of an urban resilience proposal based on a flood risk analysis of the city of beledweyne. Can you go next? Yeah, okay, thank you. So the research is therefore divided in two parts. The first part consists on an analysis of the increasing flood of the city. We start with, if you go next. We start with a social, economic, climate, territorial, and urban analysis of the country, the region, and the city in order to understand the problem on a global scale and to be able to define the risk of flood in the city. Next. Based on this assessment, the second part will be a holistic plan of proposals to improve the resilience of the city of beledweyne, including its most vulnerable communities to floods and other natural hazards. So, what we want to identify are the areas and people at greater risk in order to focus the proposal on them. For that, we start from the fact that the risk is the result of the exposure to that possible hazard, flood in our case, multiplied by the vulnerability of the inhabitants and divided by the capacity of the population and governments to act and manage the disaster. If you can go next, please. Then, in the formula, as for the hazard we are facing is the increasing flooding. Beledweyne has constantly suffered from devastating floods, but over the past decades, due in part to climate change, floods have increased in magnitude and recurrence, reaching alarming levels by 2019, where 88% of the city was flooded. Then, to analyze the exposure of this hazard, we have to define the areas of the city most prone to flooding. We established the criteria to analyze with data obtained from multiple sources, UN, FAO, Copernicus, OCHA. And we proceed this data with a geographic information system tool. So, if you can go next, please. We overlap, and next. So we overlap topographic analysis, the areas that have been flooded in the past already, and the areas close to the river breakages identified by FAO. So with all this information, we define, as you can see in this map, the degree of exposure to flooding in the different areas of the city, from more to less exposure, from darker to less dark on this map. So next. According to UNDRR, vulnerability are the conditions determined by physical, social, economic, and environmental factors that cause an individual or community to be more susceptible to the impact of hazards. As you know, beledweyne is, if you can go next, beledweyne is facing the challenge of internal displaced people. According to the CCM cluster, in February 2020, there were almost 45,000 people in 51 camps. That means 16 IDP sites, 1,000 individuals more than 1 year earlier. People living in these settlements are the most vulnerable in the city, facing multiple challenges as tenure, housing, water, sanitation, food insecurity, among others. In addition, other factors such the existence of different clans, the division of the city into neighborhoods, or the existence of informal settlements can make certain groups of people more vulnerable than others. In this research, we did not have enough information to establish these other vulnerabilities because an inside socio-spatial analysis is needed. But it is important to take into account that women, people with disabilities, the poorest people, the elderly, people from minority ethnic groups will be more vulnerable to floods. So next, then the risk, and next. This map is the conclusion of the first part of the research. The overlap of both analysis, exposure, and vulnerability defines the areas of the city according to the risk of flooding. But not only the areas are defined, also the number of individuals, disaggregating data by gender and age, who lives both in IDP settlements or in city neighborhoods in very high risk areas are counted. This allows us to identify how many people are at high risk of suffering losses of all kinds, housing, materials, infrastructure, even lives, due to flooding. So this analysis concludes that there is more than 18,000 people at very high risk of flooding and identifies where they are located, serving this analysis and plan as an identification for the mitigation proposals. So if you can go next. The second part of the research, based on this assessment, is a holistic resilience plan from the perspective of improving the habitat in a sustainable manner and aligned with existing proposals from the Somali government, other agencies, organizations, regional governments, among others. The plan is based on two pillars. On one hand, the proposal is developed from the general to the specific, just like the analysis. This means that the proposal considers the various scales from the territorial, the city, and up to local scale, taking into account the long term as climate change, population growth, internal displaced people, medium and short term. But a reverse implementation is proposed, starting with action on a small scale and moving towards the broader proposals. These small scale post-emergency actions are an opportunity to mobilize and motivate population, ensuring their participation in longer-term programs, seeking to achieve sustainable development for and with the most vulnerable people. Next. On the other hand, in order to design this resilience plan and based on the concept of risk, actions are proposed to reduce exposure to disaster, reduce vulnerability of people in areas in higher risk, and to increase the capacity of response and disaster management. Next, please. Therefore, the research concludes with a catalog of proposals for urban improvement according to the type of mitigation: reduction of vulnerability, reduction of exposure, or increasing capacity, according to the time of implementation, so short, medium, or long term, and the scale, local, city, or territorial, seeking to reduce the risk of flooding for the most vulnerable people and those exposed to future flooding. The proposals are made based on research into local technologies, tradition, and the reality of the context, taking into account gender perspective and with taking into account the different needs of women. The research focused on resilience from the area of knowledge of urban planning and infrastructure, knowing that this is only one pillar of the actions to be carried out for a resilient city, being aware of the need to implement social actions. If you can go next. So we are not going to go into detail of all the specific proposals. As Sofo said before, you can download the document, but we are going to show some of them. This one is this one, and the next, please, is the proposal to manage the river and its breakage points. We propose 3 different building techniques to treat the different points according to the possibility of overflow. And then the next one, we propose also a drainage system with different options to be implanted in the different rows, classifying by its previous damage or by width, by importance of the different rows. The next, we already developed to planify of the city, identifying low-risk empty lands, and including basic services, as for example, water kiosk. And then we also proposed the improvement of this kind of vulnerable neighbors and high-risk neighbors. Next one, please. Yeah. So the improvement of vulnerable neighborhoods through combination of different interventions, as for example, housing improvement, and focusing these high-risk vulnerable neighborhoods. So next, to conclude, this research developed within the framework of a post-degree project proposes disaster management from the analysis of both territorial and urban data, and based on the concept of risk. From the analytical conclusions, a catalog of proposal is designed to improve the resilience of the city from the urban planning and infrastructure. The proposal is aligned with national, regional, municipal policies in this area of study, working tools of UN Habitat and other UN agencies or international organizations. With all this resilient plan seeks an answer to takes into account all the scales and time of intervention to achieve the sustainable urban development of Beledweyne. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Beatrice. You really managed the time of 10 minutes for a very comprehensive academic research paper, which touches so many aspects, from the overall urban growth to breaking points of the river, but even to construction of, let's say, the river embankment protection, but also looking on upgrading of neighborhoods, but also tackling the protracted displacement in Beledweyne. Very comprehensive. I'm sure that from participants many questions here, so and I want to open the floor, but before I do this, I also want to highlight what I realized during the presentation also, and maybe this has to be also clearly explained. This is an academic research, but the real work starts on the ground, so we have to make sure, even under the MIDNIMO project, that we can do some follow-ups on bringing the information also closer to local communities, also to the local authorities, to the governor, to the respective ministers working in Beledweyne, but also to our UN colleagues. And what we need to do is probably to translate it in Somali. So my commitment here and this meeting is also that we are trying to seek to translate it so that we can reach out to more people and having more discussion. But now I open the floor for your questions, clarifications, or where you need to fill in to bring your input. I'm also happy to see that colleagues from the shelter cluster are here. We have also Benjamin Jonah, who represents the UNSOM for beledweyne. So please feel free to come in and make your statements. And later we give the floor also then to the governor also to make a summary of his impression and his remarks, and then also to the Minister of Interior. Thank you. Who wants to open? Usually you raise hands and we can see it in the participants, but feel free in this today so that you come in and make a statement. Maybe we start with questions first, whereas clarification, and then for certain slides, because it maybe needs to be explained some slides more in detail. Any questions or comments from your side? I don't see, nobody has raised the hand so far. So
first, maybe I can just make my comment.
Please, Benjamin, go ahead.
Okay. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. For colleagues who don't know me, first of all, my name is Benjamin Jonah. I'm the UN head of office in beledweyne. And first of all, to His Excellencies, Minister of Public Works, the Minister for Interior, the Governor of Iran. We're grateful for your presence here today, and let me also congratulate Habitat on this World Habitat Day. Thank you for this virtual presentation to the colleagues from the university in Madrid. I have to say that this is very, very impressive. I live in beledweyne and I work in beledweyne. I have been, since 2016, we've been having unusual floods in the town. We had one in 2016, we had another one in 2018, we had another one in 2019, and then we have another one now in 2020. So it's continuous flooding. As Ishaku has, climatic factors are now responsible for this unusual weather pattern whereby we have floods nearly every other year. And obviously we require solutions, and your paper on very helpful. There is presently, it has a lot of data, several data points that can assist our planning and preparation for dealing with floods. You have identified very impressively our various neighborhoods: Bundowen, Hawaldag, Hawatako, Koshin. That's very impressive. They're all there in your paper, and that will enable us to see where some of the vulnerabilities are. At the moment, we have also a UN National Flood Task Force that is coordinating some of our flood interventions at the moment. So our hope and our hope is that some of the material now in this paper will feed into the task force, will be utilized and will form part of the material that will be used. I also need to use this opportunity to congratulate for its leadership in managing some of the flood crisis that we have currently in beledweyne. Is the work done by local committee at the moment. That is very, very helpful work that they're doing, digging and constructing canals at the moment in beledweyne. This is a very important local initiative, which we are coordinating very closely with, and which would very much support and endorse what they're doing. And we hope, our hope is that this local flood committee initiative can be replicated in other towns and cities in Middle and in Iran region, and that will help drive ownership of these challenges that we face around flood control. I also need to mention too that the UNCT is very heavily engaged in the question of cross-border management of water. As you will know, that some of the flooding in beledweyne is also has to do with the fact that water flows from one country to another. And so the question of cross-border water management is something that the UNCT is very involved in supporting the FGS and the state initiatives in that respect. Let me close by again thanking the students from the university in Madrid. Your work it's very, very good. I found it very impressive, and I've put a little comment in the chat box as well. And I hope that there can be more dialogue between yourself and indeed other local actors who are in beledweyne so that they can collaborate more closely with you and have access to your expertise and also share ideas as well. For the professor who introduced this paper, I also worked in Makeni myself in Sierra Leone. So I was very happy to see that there was someone else who had worked in Makeni who was here as well with us. Thank you once again, Sophos, for organizing this. Thank you, Shaku, and congratulations to Habitat. And finally, my sincere appreciation to the local administration as well. Over to you, Sophos.
Thank you very much, Benjamin Jonah, also for your comprehensive outlook and also suggestions and also referring to the local flood committees. This is really an issue we should take up and really working with the local communities, but at the same time also supporting the local authorities, the regional authority, and also the state line ministries in a concentrated effort. I think this has been also explored over the last year, that whatever action is being done, it needs to be put into also governance strategies, but also looking on the community aspect. Before we go further, I also refer your attention to the chat room, where you find also already some comments on the presentation. Thank you very much, Beatrice, very clear, good presentation. But there's also from Paula Botella a question to the team now. They would like to know more about the methodology behind the spatial analysis you mentioned and the data, where the data came from you used, and because you can also explain some more details about the process and the difficulties you encountered sitting in Spain and talking and dealing with data, and you had not opportunity to go to beledweyne to the ground to validate. So maybe over to you, Beatrice, for this particular question. Over.
Yeah, as you said, the biggest difficulty was that, like being in Madrid and trying to analyze all this. But the data, we had a lot of data when we started in all the websites of the different UN agencies, and then FAO. There was a lot of data. So the difficult of the job we did was trying to analyze everything we could search on the internet, and with that everything that from UN Habitat they sent to us, and trying to identify which information we wanted to proceed and we needed to proceed, what we wanted to analyze the risk, and yes, then with GIS, with the computer and the geographic system information, to overload all the data and all the maps and everything we found, to finally arrive to what you saw, like the process of all this information into something clear and useful, and to finally be able to define this risk map.
Maybe one more comment from my side, Pablo, here.
Yes, please, Pablo, come in.
No, just on the same topic of the information. I think the main outcome of all this paper is exactly this, is the fact of this analysis. For me, this is an exhaustive data collection exercise, all this secondary data, but then, and most importantly, this transformation into meaningful information, right? Because the fact of spending time to sit and analyze all this information. Just simply like, for example, overlaying the IDP map with the historical floods. We have this data, but the fact of sitting down and work and putting together, this is what I think it makes the difference. And just to also highlight that it has been remote and it's academic and theoretical, as we have been all the time saying, and needs to be complemented and completed with more data from the field and some validation. Okay, so just this is from my side. Thank you. Over to you.
Beatrice, you wanted to say something, or you?
No, sorry, I just forgot to
collect
silence.
more statements and questions to your work. Maybe I can take up also Pablo's last statement. I mean, this is really this working also with the local authorities and the local communities. And I see also we have a colleague from IOM here. IOM was very much engaged in also developing a community action plan, which is also aligned with the state and national priorities in beledweyne. And IOM has developed also this methodology to how to engage different communities and to prioritize. And I think what is here on the table now is, as Pablo said, also to utilize this data, validate and conclude where now this knowledge can be also translated into practical action. But I want to open up if there are other people who want to contribute. But if not, then we can also give the floor to a first comment by the governor.
Yes, of course. Can I come in?
Yes, please. But introduce yourself first.
Yes, and I am Mahmoud Hussein, UN Habitat Office in Garowe. I am an urban planner. So, and I am interested for the documentation that has been submitted. That what I need to ask to the team that have made the analysis for the map is there is a historical and there is a historical zones that the government has produced, as far as I know, that the previous government has produced for do we have that data? Do we have used that data? The silting of existing and all these things was one of the main things that has been done. There is a lot of areas which has been used before and are now being closed by other individuals. Do we have that? Have we consulted the area that were previously used? Because beledweyne have used that it has not had any planning in the past. Despite in the last phase without the government settled on the areas which has been demarcated for no built areas. That's my first question. My second question is that, and it has a lot of greening areas, a lot of greening or river buffer zones on the edges of the river. But it has a lot. It have a lot of implications of the city center, and it will have a lot of implications to the community which has residential there. Do we have an analysis how this will be affected and how this will be solved? The people which will be affected by this demolition and all these green areas.
Can you please repeat, because I didn't listen really well the question? I have some internet problems and I don't really listen what you were asking. Sorry.
So the first question Mohammed raised was basically to look that there were a recording of historical data on flood and water levels, and whether this has been already into utilized also. are settled by people have some implications if people need to be resettled, how this would be tackled. Is this correct, Mohammed? Mohammed, can you confirm, and Beatrice, that you understood the question?
I don't know if it's me, but I think we are having some internet problems because I was just hearing some words, but not what you're saying. I don't know if it's me. If not, I can go and come inside the conversation again.
Okay, maybe we can address, with your permission, also directly to the governor of the Hiran region, the question on this historical data, and maybe that we get maybe also the opportunity to check on the availability of this data. But Governor, maybe you can also have your statement on the presentation, and maybe also further questions from your side which need to be clarified. I'm handing over to you, Governor.
gobolka waxaan weydiinaynaa waagii hore magaalada beledweyne doomiyaha gobolkan lagu soo wareejiyey waagii hore magaalada beledweyne siday ahayd oo meelihii la degay oo ay biyuhu mari jireen xogteedii iyo informationkeedii in la helayo in kale waagii sida loo maareyn jiray meelihii ciidda laga saari jiray iyo doomiyaha gobolkan lagu soo wareejiyey.
Thank you, Mohammed, for translation. Huh?
doomiyaha gobolku mana maqlaa?
Hello. Okay, please can you repeat the question? Please can you repeat the question? Yes, repeat the question so that we hear it properly.
Yeah, please repeat in Somalia.
Go on, please. Go on, please. We're hearing. We're listening. Yes, we're hearing.
We can hear you. Yes.
Yeah, repeat the question, please, so that we may understand it. So,
Mohammed, please.
taariikhdii hore magaalada beledweyne waagii hore dowladii dhexe waxay lahayd dhul biyuhu ay mari jireen oo kanaaladii loogu talagalay ama meel wara ah kanaalaha loogu talagalay inay magaalada biyuhu ka baxaan kama leeyahay xogtii magaaladii hore taariikhdii biyaha soo jiray oo iyo hadda waxa in la degay ama ay ku xadgudbeen dhulkaas xogtii hore sidee loo maareyn jiray waagii hore maxaa hadda caqabad ku ah oo si maabiskan iyo waxaan lagu update gareeyo?
Okay, waxaan horta idinkaan baryaynaa maalinta UN maalinteeda soo dhawaadaan idilana waa idin hambalyaynaa. Intaa haddii aan ka gudbo waxyaabo badana laga hadlay saaka mar raba inaan biyaha marin biyoodka keliya aan ka hadle waxaan rabaa mashaariicda midnimo 2 iyo midnimo 1 iyo aad ka hadlayseen saaka ee beledweyne aad ka fuliseen annagu ma hayno ciddii aad la wadaagteen iyo ciddii fulisay iyo shaqadaa goorkii la qabtay idinkaa noo cadday doona. waxyaabaha kaloo aan rabnaa inaan idin su-aalna waxay tahay mashaariic kalaan maqlaynaa inaad dad qaxootiyaala guryo u dhisteen miya ood mashaariic kale fuliseen xilliga la fuliyey yaa joogay xafiiska waa waqtigee xaggaysi ku dhisan yihiin guryahaas waa su-aasha labaad oo raba inaan dhigo ya
wala maqlaya wad sheegada
dadkan in wax aan jirin oo aan loo qaban oo mashaariica la yiraahdo waa loo qabtay oo waa la fuliyey xoogaa wax laga naxo waaye midnama two iyo midnama one xilligii ay shaqaynayeen xilliga hadda saaka laga hadlayay hadda aanan xafiiska jooginna magaaladan joogin $10 shaqada waa la qabtay laakiin lacagteedii meeshay marta ma garanayo ciddii qaadatay ra'iisaha laydinka rabaa meeshay jirtay in la ogaadaa la rabaa 6 bilood dad masaakiina oo dumar iyo shaqaynayeen $1 lama siin $1 lama siin $1 ma la siin marka problemkaasi waa jiraa ayadda xaggeedu naga soo jiraa saaka fursada ii tahay inaan xaaladda la kulmo ay hadlayo waxa kuu soo haray fatahaadda 1960kii waxaa yimid biyo aad u xoog badan oo fatahaaddii ku xigtay waxay ahayd 1981dii fatahaaddii kaloo ku xigtana waxay ahayd 1990 xilliyadaasay ahayd waxa u dambeysay 97 hadda waxay isu bedeshay roobkii da'aaba inay fatahaad noqoto hadda weli xilligii dayrta ma aynaan gaarin fatahaadana jirto waad garanaysaan waxa isbedelaan laguma garan karayna waa awood naga xoog badan awood alla waa intaasaan u dhaafaynaa haddii aan usoo laabto marin biyoodada waa jiraan marin biyoodo biyuhu mari jireen oo matalan buunda koobaad buunda labaad biyaha dhanka bariga ka yimaada ayaa waxa ka soo geli jiray ay webiga ka geli jireen waxaa kaloo jiri jiray keliga la yidhaha waraaboole oo lamagalay dusheeda ka baxa oo webi kale oo aan ka yarayn webigan wax quban aan ka yarayn ayaa biyuhu ku bixi jireen waxayna kaga diri jireen gambarlaawa agteeday kaga diri jireen webiga kale kaga diri jireen gambarlaawa tan la yidhaahdo maxaa la yidhahdaa waraaboole wuu xirmay wuu owdmay waa xiran yahay ayaan dhawaadaan isku daynay inaan furno kumaanaan guulaysan 2 sababood dartood biyaha soo fatahmay oo keliga biyo ku jireen iyo maxaan ku idhaahdaa oo roobab da'ayeen iyo xilliga biyuhu yimideen labada arrimood awgeed kumaanaan guulaysan marka waa jirtaa marin biyoodadaas laakiin marin biyoodadaasu marka biyo yimaadaan magaalada kuma filnaan jirna biyuhu magaalada way geli jireen laakiin sida looga badbaadin jiraa waxay tahay meel kasta oo biyuhu oo qarka webigu ka gaaban yahay meel kastoo qarka webigu ka gaaban yahay waxaa jiri jiray niman la yidhaahdo damaaya oo ciidamada xoogga dalka soomaaliyeed ka mid ah aniga ciidamada soomaaliyaan ahay 81 ciidankii fatiiga u yimid aan ka mid ahay magaalada beledweyne marka waxaa la xiri jiray qararka webigana waa la dhooba bixi jiray mar walba xilli kasta oo qorraxeeda webigaa la dhooba bixi jiray hadda dowlad webigii ma dhooba bixi karayno oo ma haysano agabka iyo qalabkii lagu dhooba bixin lahaa maxaan ku idhahdaa qarku meeshuu ka gaabmana waa hawlkii baasigeedu leegyahay in dowladu qabato dowlad xoog badan inay qabato dowladda soomaaliyana dee adinkaa kaalmeeya waa garanaysaan waxa aad siisaan intii leeyihiina waa garanaysaan waa mahadsantiin
Okay, I think we have to translate the message of the governor so that it may be understood by other listeners who did not hear or understand Somalia. The governor first time thanked and celebrated with you the day of UN Habitat Day, and he says thank you for the day, and he's also celebrating with you. The second point, he talked about water projects of Medinimo 1 and Medinimo 2. Those are projects that are going on, but the details about the projects are not yet available in the office of the governor. There is a lot of information that is required from them to be shared with the governor so that the governor can be well updated and participate in the commitments that you are improving the situation. The third point, he pointed out about housing projects that are going on. All the information is probably outside or maybe in the national level of the government or outside, but apparently there is no information sharing that is going on between the organizations and the governor's office or the local administration. The third point, he talked about money in the payments and the people who are working with the projects. They do not receive money for 6 months. He stressed the point that not even a single dollar has come to the people here. People have worked very hard and some projects have been implemented, but funds are still missing. No, so he needs a lot of details and update about the payments so that he can continue on. Now, he is stressed on the point, on the fact that floods have been going on for a long time from 1960 what? 1960, yes. He said 1960 is the time when floods happened. Yes, he pointed out the year 1965. There used to be floods in beledweyne here, and the way it used to be controlled and managed, yes, in 81, 87, up to the moment, the flood protection or the flood control team used to be implemented by the government. There was military, yes, the military in that time used to use two things. In every place where the floods used to overflow, they used to block it, and secondly, they used to desilt the river every other time. Those two activities, desiltation of the river and blocking of all canals that used to pass in the Underway, Damanyo areas, Warabole, those canals were always protecting the floods in case the water has passed the level of floods, which used to be monitored by the government system. So he says, this time the government is no longer has the capacity to do that. And that's why this canal, the floods are happening. So it means that if the government or the international community and the donors return to the previous solution of water floods, all these floods will end. That is what he talked about. But since now the government no longer has great capacity to have equipment for desilting the water, then there should be another solution which should be proposed. And that's how he concluded his speech. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Governor. Thank you also very much for the translation, and it gives us really a deep insight also, and maybe we can also ask for permission, and I'm coming back to also the points the Governor has raised in the practical implementation of the MidNEMO project, that we also do some more research and look for collaboration with the Governor's office to really document also this history since 1965, as you mentioned, and also the mechanisms which were used at this time in order to learn also lessons, what helped and what really worked very well for further action. Thanks very much, Governor. As you also talked that communication is a very decisive element in collaboration. My suggestion is, even in preparation of this water kiosk construction, that we have assigned our engineer to go very soon to beledweyne to talk to all with your office, then also to the mayor's office and also to other partners in the field in order to shape this information exchange so that we are all on the same page and getting also guidance from your office. We are not going to implement something which are without your knowledge. So that's our commitment. And what I also can see on the other issue you raised, we have to talk to our colleagues in Midnimo 2 who are responsible for the issue of these payments, so that we maybe find a joint meeting when our staff member is in beledweyne to connect via online meeting, so that we sort out these issues with your office too. That's from my side. Thanks very much for also your statement, and also that you are joining our celebrations for World Habitat Day. But we know we have to do a lot of more things to tackle the issues.
Yes, point of information, Mr. Speaker. Point of information, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, please. Go ahead.
The governor would like to add on one point that is very important at the moment. Okay, the governor is pointing out the fact which they told him about communication. Communication is very important, as you have signed it, and it is always found in the talks, but there is no practical actions on the ground. He's asking now about the communication of Midnimo 1 and Midnimo 2 and the money. Who paid the money?
Yes, Sophos, for clarification, can I come in? Somali.
Yes, please. Yes, please. You can also explain in Somali language in the interest of time here, and then we make a short summary in English, please.
Okay. Governor aad baad u mahadsan tahay. Waxaan kuu cadaynayaa Midnimo 1 iyo Midnimo 2 meelaha laga fuliyay. Midnimo 1 waxa laga fuliyay waxa weeyaan horta mashruucan Midnimo 2 waa governmental led project waxa hogaamiyana Ministry of Interior wasaaradda arrimaha gudaha waana record garaynaa waana la shargaray adigana lagu shargarin doonaa laakiin Midnimo 1 iyo Midnimo 2 laba meelood bay ka kala fuleen information kan laga horay ay ka bixinayay Sophos oo Midnimo 1 ee ku soo dirayay in lagu siiyo xogta uun bay ahayd Midnimo 1 mashruucaasi waxa laga hirgeliyay waxa weeyaan waa Jubaland iyo Southwest State buu ka hirgalay Midnimo 2 waxa laga fulinayaa waxay tahay waa Hirshabelle iyo Galmudug wax kasta oo laga qabto maxaydan Hirshabelle ama laga qabto maxaydan Galmudugna waxa lead agency ka ah wasaaradda arrimaha gudaha ee maxaydan Hirshabelle wax kasta oo laga qabto documentation keega iyo wixii oo dhanna wal record gaya waana la wadaagaa governorka iyo dawladdiina waa la wadaagi doonaa marka waxaan ku cadaynayaa Midnimo 1 inaan laga fulinin aan laga fulin maxaydan Hirshabelle iyo Galmudug ee laga fuliyay Jubaland iyo Southwest State
Midnimo 2 ma la fuliyay masoo dhimantahay
Midnimo 2 way socotaa hadday socotaa waana saga iman doonaa midnaan ka yeelan doonaa hadduu Ilaahay dhaaho waxaana wasaaradda hawlaha gudaha wasaaradda arrimaha gudaha ayaa leerka wax kasta oo qabanayna as a document waan samayn doonaa insha Allah bidmillahi kareem hadda waxa ka socda inaan waad ogtahay hadda
xagee ka socotaa
hadda waxaan ka bilaabaynaa maxaydan magaalada oo adigu laftaada warqad aad soo qortay ay ahayd in kiosk meelo biyo 4 meelood oo biyo ah loo samayn doono maxaydan beledweyne wixii kalena aan ka wada aan saga iman doono waxa la fuliyay oo beledweyne laga fuliyay ama Hirshabelle laga fuliyay totally ma jirto
taa kiosk dhul baan idinku caawinay adinka hay'ad ahaan ayaana soo weydiistay marka qaabka aad wax u rabteen iyo waxa isbixin waayay shaqada in la qabto ay ahayd marka dhulkii baanu bixinay waxaanu sameynay qaab la isku waafaji karo dokumentiga ay soo qornayna ku cadeen taas fine waa ogahay laakiin midnimo waxaan daba joogaa
inaad faan gudoomiye aan isfahanno Midnimo 1 lagama hirgelin waxa laga hirgeliyay Jubaland iyo Southwest State waa laba maamul goboleed oo Soomaaliya ka tirsan ma aha Hirshabelle lagama fulinin Hirshabelle iyo Galmudug waxa laga fulinayaa Midnimo 2 wax kasta oo la qaban doonana as documented waa lagu wadaagi doonaa hadda wax la qabtay ma jiro waana saga iman doonaa
dad kale ayaa jooga maamul ka mid oo u banaynaya waxaan rabaa fatahaadda beledweyne oo maalin walba webiga Shabeelle uu ku soo fato waxay soo dhaaftay in la isweydiiyo iyo in lagu sheekaysto way soo dhaaftay waxay u baahan tahay wax la taaban karo taas wax loo tuujin karo waxaan leenahay UN Habitat arrintaas hay-adaha Soomaaliya fanka badan geliyay ka mid tahay bal xaggana ha soo jaleecdo aadaan u mahadsan
okay gudoomiye aad baad u mahadsan tahay hadda maxay dhanay meetingka laga hadlayay risk and urban resolutionka laga hadlayay wax kaliya waxa weeye in la samaynayo sida looga hortago iyo sida wax looga qabto waana isaga iman doonaa waana wax kasta oo qabanayna meeting man ka yeelan doonaa insha Allah biidmillahi karim
Abdirahman, in the interest of time, can you just summarize? And I think we find all way to sort out all these issues together with the governor's office and the mayor's office on the raised questions here. But I'm thinking we should separate it from this meeting today. As we said, very soon our engineer is going to the field, and then we organize this meeting to sort out all the issues and contributing our part for improved communication and coordination.
Yes, of course.
I cannot speak on behalf of the other two agencies. We should have this as a joint. All the MIDNIMO partners should go to the governor's office and sort out these things. That's I can say for here. But I also have we have also the Ministry of Interior. I don't know whether they are still in the meeting here to maybe also add one point. If not, then I would say we come back if there are other questions or things we want to raise here today. So that's my suggestion for the way forward. Abdirahman, can you translate so that we maybe go for the closing session?
Yes, Governor hadii baan isaga soo noqon doonaa insha Allah wasiirka arrimaha gudaha hadii uu maqlayo pointiskiisa ha soo galo insha Allah. Wasiir, assalamu alaykum.
Wa alaykum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And thank you. My presentation will be translated by my advisor. بسم الله الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وورنتي وإذن سلام يا دمانتين سيدا مارتي آد ماشي آد أقول جرتان وحرب أنا نبحث عليو أن بحث يو أنكا قار أهان مارتي أن يو هابيتات أو شركة مانت عن السؤال مدى سوق مقابسي أيضا وحان لها آد ما سنتهين.
Thank you very much. This is Minister of Interior, Shobele Muhammad Ali Adle. Greetings extended to the participants in this meeting, especially on the day of UN Habitat. Congratulations, UN Habitat.
kadib waxaan rabaa xaaladda sida uu sheegay waxaan rabaa inaan maaragtay aan u mahad celiyo maamulka gobolka iyo maaragtay iyo degmada dhamaan in shaqooyinka maaragtay ayaguna ay qabanayaan iyo sida dadaalka ay wadaan ayaga iyo dhamaantood waxaan rabaa inaan u mahad celiyo.
I also thank the governor of Hiran for their cooperation there and the work they are doing there. Just one more clarification, Mr. Sophos, is it to comment on the issues raised by the governor, or the minister will go ahead with his speech?
No, I think we give His Excellency the Minister of Interior now the word to comment. We have already outlined a way forward that we sort out all the issues remaining on the table during the normal mechanism of MIDNIMO 2, including then IOM and UNDP on the same table with the governor and also representatives from your ministry of Interior. Thank you.
So the minister will only comment on what the issue the governor has raised.
We appreciate the minister's statement. So and if there is something which we want to add to MIDNIMO 2, of course we need to address issues which are on the table. But our focus today was on the flood risk mapping and the urban resilience in beledweyne, and the presentation and how we translate the academic research now also in practical action. So we are already in the discussion in that sense. I'm grateful for any guidance from His Excellency.
Thank you. So the minister goes ahead.
Okay, and marka waxaan rabaa sida uu sheegay governorka hadalkiisa ku jirtay xaaladda jirta fatahaadaha ka taagan beledweyne xaqiiqatan ma aragtay dhibaatadeedu waqti badan ay soo laalaabanayso oo mar kastaba ay taagan tahay way ka weyn tahay in laga hadlo sida hadda governorka uu dhahayo waxay u baahan tahay waxqabad oo rasmi in gacanta lala galo oo shaqo la qabtay rabtaa marka waxaan aad u rajaynaynaa maadaama wax badan barnaamijyada laga hadlaayo oo daraasado badan lagu sameeyey oo juhdi badan la geliyey waxaan u baahannahay markaan in loo bedelo ficil oo shaqada si dhab ah gacanta loola galo.
As informed by the governor and other speakers on the issue of the resilience and beledweyne flood risks, the minister says that it is now beyond talking. What is now required is actual to put the plans into action so that something tangible can be made to cap the flood risks that is causing a lot of that's posing a lot of risk to especially in Beledweyne. So action is now required as the governor has given.
haddaan usoo laabto midaan arrinta tan oo hadda midnimo midnimo 2 oo hadda laga dhawaajinayay ma huba aniga UNDP inay meesha ku jirto haddii meesha ku jirto waa si dhabahan aan uga hadli lahayn arrimaha midnimo 2 laakiin waxaan rabnaa midnimo 2 waqti maadaama hadda UN Habitatna ay ku jirto meesha IOMna inay ku jirto aan u malaynayo midnimo 2 shaqooyinka waqtiga iyadoo ay iska leedahay mandate-ka waa socoyaa waqtigeedu maalinta ka dambaysa waa soo gaabana ilaa iyo haddana ma hayna shaqooyinka rasmiga ahay oo ma aragtay laga sugayay midnimo 2 dhan kastaba ha ku yimaadeen marka waxaan u baahannahay maadaama hadda laba hay-adood oo kamida meesha ay ku jirto barnaamijka midnimo 2 in si dhab ah loo dhaqaajiyo maaragtay waxqabadkiisuna uu bilowday laanna hadda teemkiisu hadduu dhamaada ka bacdi iyo waxba qaban waa arrin culayskeeda la wada.
The minister is not very sure if all the 3 partners of UN, Minima 2 are present. What you could confirm is UN Habitat and IOM. If UNDP is also there, then he says is somehow worried about the projects that have not been implemented that come through Minima 2, and the time is running away because it has taken a lot of time in planning and the implementation has not been effected as we speak. So he is asking if all the partners are there, that they should do something before time lapses.
waa tixgelinaynaa arrinta hadda cudurka oo hadda sanadatan maaragtay wax laga qaban waayey laakiin sanadii ka horeysay oo la sugaayo in wax la qabto nafteeda waxba lama qabto marka arrintaas waxaa waaye daliilaan ka muujinaynaa haddii aan nahay Hirshabelle.
It is true that because of COVID-19, a lot could not be done, and because of there were suspension of a lot of activities because of the this coronavirus pandemic. But even in the previous year, he feels that as it was lagging behind. Actual implementation of Minima 2 projects has been lagging behind, and he is asking the partners to spearhead, to know now something to accelerate the actual implementation of projects that come through Minima 2.
waan ku darayaa maadaama hadda aanay ajendaha ka mid ahayn in barnaamijka midnimo 2 laga hadlo laakiin hadalka hadda ay soo gashay intaas baan aan raacinaya oo u ekeysanaa marka waxaan rabaa in aan aad u adkeeyo in ma aragtay fatahaadaha webiga waxa wixii la qaban karo hadda waxaa beledweyne waa meesha ugu daran oo dhibaatada xoogga la markasta uu ka geysto meelo badan oo kasoo bilow webigu inta uu maro oo maaragtay 350 kilomitir dhul ah oo maaragtay webiga xisaabiyaana oo farac ka badanayo ayuu maaragtay webigu maray intaasna waxaa waa dhibaatadu way taagan tahay hadda maanta magaalada Jalaalaha iyo maaragtay iyo way kala go'an tahay oo dhexdooda wada fiirsan u maleynaa waxyaabihii dhacayay maalmaha la soo dhaafay marka arrinta webiga waxaa la rabaa in wax awood loo leeyahay oo la qaban karo awoodda rabbiyaale oo gacantiisa ku jirta laakiin anaguna wax awoodeena ah in la qabto waxyaabaha farsamada iyo iyo technicalkana waxa waaye waa la igaga fiican yahay wasiirka waxaa ku jira howlaha guudaha meesha ku jira hadda iyo dadka hadda shaqada kula jiray marka wixii farsamaan ayagaasaan uga dambeynayna haddii ilaahay
because sorry, the minister, because of the issue of minimum 2 has not been in the agenda, but because it has been raised, that's why he had to talk about it. On the issue of flood resilience and other issues, it is very important that the partners do something to curb the flood and improve resilience of the people along the river because the river runs from Ethiopia. It's about 350 kilometers. It affects all the way. All these, I'm seeing some interruptions, Mr. Purpose.
So sorry, the last word I didn't hear you. I heard something you said about the issues of the river sides, but the last word I didn't get you because there was some background noise. So maybe
yes.
The last two sentences. And we have also the OIC Somalia program here in the line, then also for closing remarks. But first, we can agree on that we have to address these issues very soon as project partners together with the Ministry of Interior as the lead for the MIDNEMO 2 implementation. And of course, the communication with the governor's office we have already touched on, so that we do this. And I only want to say finally, the extension of the MIDNEMO 2 project has been endorsed. But we have to do more efforts to implement all of our activities.
That's so what the minister was saying is that out of the 350 kilometers where the river runs, there are always problems, especially you are hearing from the media, Jalalaxi, the flood is now causing a lot of havoc in there, and it will continue along all the districts that fall within the river. So he's stressing very much that minimum 2 or any other funding tool could address the issue of flooding in all the villages and all the target the areas that fall under within the river banks. It is a 350 kilometer range. So he's asking not only in Beledweyne but other areas could also be considered. And with that is the end of the comment of the Minister of Interior. Back to you.
Thank you very much. Thanks for the translation, Your Excellency, Minister of Interior. We have well noted also your comments and your advice and guidance. And as our colleague Benjamin Jonah already earlier talked on this joint task force now of all UN entities working in here, Shabelle, to establish a mechanism not to wait for a next flood to come, but to be prepared when a next flood comes in order to implement easily mechanisms and activities, but based on the technical knowledge and based also on the analysis. And I'm really keen that the research even the students from Madrid did by collecting the available information and putting the information layers in a different connection so that you can really see how many IP settlements, for example, would be affected if flood level goes to a certain level, is really enriching the discussion. But of course, as you said, it's time for action now, and we have to prepare for action. With this saying, with your permission, Your Excellency, I want to give the floor again to Ishaku Maitumbi, the OIC of Somalia program, to close this meeting here. I think we have learned during the last 90 minutes a lot of information. But as you said, we are here also to tackle the practical implementation in a better way. And some of the things were discussed already. So I know this is not sufficient at this moment for you, but we will sit in a suitable form to sort out the issues of MIDNEMO. With this saying, I would give the floor to Ishaku Maitumbi.
Sophos, I think Minister of Public Works is announcing there before Ishaku.
Okay, I didn't see it, sorry, on my screen here, but Your Excellency, Minister of Public Works, please come in and address the issues you would like to address.
Hello, Minister. I think he's left, so we can. He left, so we can can go ahead.
So Ishaku, are
Yes.
you available?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you all, and thanks for the fruitful discussions. And for us, we're pleased that we're able to have this interaction on World Habitat Day, and I do endorse hello. And I do endorse the idea of being very preemptive in our actions before the flood comes around. What have we prepared, the preparatory work to make sure the early warning signs and systems that we can work with so that we can mitigate or manage the flood when it comes, given we probably don't have control over that. On implementation rate, as Safa said, we have bilateral, we're working effortly to change some of our systems to make the implementation happens in a more timely manner. So we accept and are keen to make sure that we improve on that rate, but we're going to be having the one-to-one with the governor to see how best we can make it timely. But on the whole, I want to thank everyone for joining us today, and I hope we continue this interaction and discussion. Thank you very much for all for participating. Over to you. And once again, the Institute as well, and everyone else. Thank you.
Point of information, Speaker.
Over to you, Sophos.
Yes.
Point of information, Speaker.
Who can you repeat?
This is from Hiran region, the mayor of Beledweyne's office. I would like to inform you that the mayor would like also to present, to address some facts in this meeting and to celebrate also with the UN habitant. She's present here, so she would like to have to be given an opportunity also to talk. Is it possible?
Yes, I think because we also acknowledge the technical difficulties you had. So my suggestion is we give her also, the mayor, also a short statement. But as we said, on the practical things, let's talk outside of this meeting, in another meeting with all the implementing partners. And then we can conclude our meeting for today. Over to you, Mayor, for a short statement. Thank you.
Mr. Postfocus, before you go to the mayor, I want to, on behalf of Minister Adley, he has spoken with the Minister of Public Works, Mr. Jama. He has sent his apology because he could not access the meeting. So on behalf of Jama, Minister of Public Works, he says sorry for not attending the meeting. Over to you, Mr. Sofos.
That's well noted, and apologies accepted, and we acknowledge also the challenges to connect in this form. We would like to see more interaction on the ground, of course, but this is beyond our powers at this time. So with this saying, I hand over to the mayor for a final statement here. Thank you.
dhammaan waa idin salaamaya waxaan salaanta la qaybsanayaa iyo farxadda UN Habitat qof kastana waxaan ku salaamay mansabka ay leedahay marka ugu horeyso waxaan idin qaybsanayaa farxadda UN Habitat meel kasto ay joogto UN Habitat marka labaad aad baan ugu faraxsanahay in maanta uu dhaco kulankan isxog waraysiga iyo isla qaybsiga farxadda ah waxaan kaloo rabay inaan arrinta midnimo one ka hadlo midnimo two waa laga furay beledweyne waxaa ka furay maayarkii igu horeeyey waxaan filaa inay December ahayd ilaa 550 haween ah aan u malaynaa 14 maalmood inay shaqaynayeen ayaa la istartigareeyey sidaa daraadeed annaga beledweyne ahaan kamayr ahaan waxaa la furay midnimo 2 September sidaa daraadeed waxaan wada hadalnay wasiirka qorsheynta wuxuu ii sheegay in 320 beledweyne meesha 520 laga dhigay joogna 200 uu haayo weliba dhaqaalihiisii haddana waxaan maqlayay hadda la bilaaba iyo lama furin bal marka arrintaas waxay u baahan tahay in si maaragtay aad u waafiya loo kala saaro sababtoo wasiirkii qorsheynta ee hore wuxuu daahfuray midnimo 2 wasiirka qorsheynta hadda joogo hirshabeellena wuxuu ii sheegay 200 inuu suurta gashay inuu shaqadoodii ay gutaan dhaqaalahoodii siiyey midnimo 2 jowhar tii hiiraana uu gacanta ku hayo marka arrintaas waxaan ka codsanayaa cidda ay khusayso in loo tixraac fiican la sameeyo waxaan diyaar u nahay inaan la shaqeyno cid kasta oo wax noo qabanayso waxaan diyaar u nahay inaan la shaqeyno cid kasta oo aan isleeyahay garashadoodu waxay gaarsiisan tahay in waddanka gaar ahaan hirshabeelle gaar ahaan hiiraan wax loo qabto waxaan diyaar u nahay inaan habeen iyo maalin shaqeyno waxaan diyaar u nahay in 20% diyaar aan u nahay xooggeena iyo dhaqaalaheena inaan waddankeena gelino haddaba waxaan filaa mar in laga dhawaajiyo meelaha biyaha waxaa jira magaalada gudaheeda meelaha ay ka bixi jireen biyaha gudaha ku haro way xiran yihiin waana meelo gaar ah sababtoo ah tubooyinkii webiga biyaha ku shubi lahaa way xiran yihiin waxay u baahan yihiin in la furo laga shaqeeyo dhowr meeloodna waa magaalada gudaheeda insha allah adreesyada waa kala haysanaa emailkayga waa haysataan waxaan aad ugu faraxsanahay in shaqa loo diyaar garoobo laakiin maamulka cid aysan ogeyn waxaan codsanaynaa in aysan qaadanin mashaariicda hadday qaataan isla xisaabtan iyo ogaansho midna imaanayso kambaliyaan iyo joogo fara badanaa waddanka joogo mashaariic ay qaadanayaan meelaan waxay sii gelayaan dan shaqadii cid ka kontrooleysa malaha magaalada way weyn tahay state waa weyn yahay waxaan aad iyo aad u sabood garaynayaa arrinta gobornarka oo ah in lala soo xiriiro maamulka heer gobol heer degmo heer wasiir iyo heer state ilaa madaxweyne si dabagal loo sameeyo aad u mahadsantiin waad soo dhaweyna waxaan aad idinla qaybsanaa farxadda
The speech of the mayor began with the greetings to all the UN inhabitants for this good day of UN inhabitant. She's very pleased and she's celebrating with you wherever you are and wherever all the people are. She's actually very pleased for this day and celebration. After the celebrations of the UN Inhabitants Day, she's clarifying a point about Midnimo 2 concerning the starting of the project or the future starting. The project Midnimo 2 has already started. People should be aware that it started before her entry in the office. There was another mayor who used to work there. She's the one who initiated, she's the one who participated in the initiation of that project, and the implementation went on. It was divided into two parts, the part for beledweyne and part for Johar. The participants of women that participated in that project are 550, and the group was divided into two, giving 200 women to Johar and 350 to Beledweyne. The project of Mirinimo started September last year, and it is going on. So there should be no information concerning the future commencement of Midinimo, but it is already going on. And the issue about the continued implementation of this project was discussed with her and the Minister of Planning. So the former Minister of Planning, not the Minister of Present. Minister of Planning, he discussed with the mayor and the activities that are going on. He is very much concerned with the information of the governor concerning the sharing of information. She is stressing the fact that there should be clear information sharing through the local government, governor, ministerial, up to the president, so that proper follow-up of the project and good implementation can be performed. If there is no information shared, as the governor stated, the follow-up and the monitoring and evaluation process will not be very easy to make. There are organizations that come in beledweyne. Beledweyne is the big city. They come projects, sit somewhere, they do whatever they do. There is no monitoring and evaluation. The governor is not aware. The district commission not aware. The mayor not aware. Such a thing should be changed and transformed into a technical system that is monitorable and evaluable. So we talked of the information, the first information of every organization or whatever donors that they come in the state of Venezuela and Iran, they should always channel information to the local administration, region, Ministry of Interior, and the president, so that they can participate in the projects, take their role, and be able to monitor the projects, control over. She stresses on her readiness to collaborate with every donor, every organization, and all UN habitat people, UN agencies. She's ready to put her efforts and money to contribute to the development and the progress of the United Nations and the international organizations, local organizations, and whoever is ready to participate to help to give humanitarian assistance in Venezuela. That is her speech as it was. Thank you.
Governor iyo Mike aad umahadsantihiin. Waan saga imanaynaa waanan ka wada tashan doonaa waxyaalahaas oo dhan. Sophos, hand over to you.
Yes. Thank you, Honorable Mayor. We have well noted your concerns and also your expressions where we have to work hard and to improve. And it's also noted with the statement of His Excellency, the Minister of Interior, but I also know it from the Minister of Public Works. To talk to our colleagues from IOM and UNDP and to do it jointly, because MITNIMO is a joint project. So I want to give them the floor that we present as a joint team to you on the activities which are pending and how we also organize monitoring evaluation with the ground. With this permission, I would conclude the meeting for today, looking also on the time frame we have for the WebEx links. And I really want to also express my really appreciation for the work of the students of the research paper and also to the team of Professor Luis Perea and the other colleagues which also joined here today to spread also these topics to a broader audience, but also with a view to unlock additional funds and resources, because we all know what is proposed here would also require a lot of resources, not only local resources, but also international resources. With this saying and with your permission, I would conclude this meeting as part of UN Habitat Day 2020. I would like to thank all who prepared this meeting, including our IT support. But I also would like to thank you all and wishing you health, best, and hope I can see you all very soon in a suitable form for technical preparations or further implementation discussion. With this saying, have a good day, Mahatsanit, and muchas gracias to Spain. Thank you.